In today's video, I'm going to give you guys some tips to have a head start in Wuthering Waves, start properly, avoid certain key mistakes that I'm going to be covering, on top of some bonus and advanced tips to help you progress smoothly and efficiently without falling into some common traps. While I played the game a lot in the second closed beta, the footage you are seeing is recorded on a test server, which I got access to thanks to the sponsor of this video. Wuthering Waves, if you don't know, is a cross-platform free-to-play open-world action RPG, a brand new game that released today globally on May 22nd. Feel free to use my link in the description to download the game and also get a special bonus of Astrites via the code on screen and in the description. A special thanks to Wuthering Waves for sponsoring this video, which is really awesome as it's a video that I wanted to make anyways, and I also get to give you guys some exclusive early content thanks to a test server where I got to record this footage, but note that some things may change in the live version of the game. And also, feel free to join their Discord and follow their Twitter to get the latest updates. With that in mind, let's now get into the video. Starting things off, as you enter Wuthering Waves, you may be wondering what to do and how you should be progressing. The first thing you need to know is that in general, when you can do the main story, you should focus on it. This is because you'll get a ton of union level XP, progressing your account, unlocking new areas, and also exploring along the way. You get a ton of resources, materials from completing the story quest, on top of, as mentioned, a big chunk of XP. As you complete main story quests, eventually you'll get locked out of continuing. You'll need to level up to unlock the following quest, and at that point, that's when you can do other things. Among those things include exploring around, defeating enemies, opening chests, and just doing basically everything that you can. I highly recommend that as you are doing the main story quest, as you're progressing in the game, try to pick up any quest you see, any side quest or exploration quest, and then when you can't progress the main story quest any further, that's when I recommend going and doing all of these other quests, doing basically anything that you can to help progress your account as fast as possible. Also, be sure to do your daily quests for a bunch of free daily rewards that you can get very easily. Additionally, on top of just collecting what you can, opening chests, and basically hoarding everything, defeating enemies is very important, notably for echoes. Echoes are the gear of this game, the artifact equivalent, what you're going to be equipping on your characters, and echoes are very important. Now, regarding echoes, something you need to understand is that whatever echo you choose as your main echo that you put in your first slot will give you its unique effect. These are very important as they give you a new ability, a new active you can use whenever it's up. You can spam it, it doesn't cost anything, it usually has a really good effect that can also synergize well with whatever character you're using. Be sure to read these and equip these on all of your characters as they work even without leveling your echoes. The way to unlock echoes is you defeat an enemy, you can absorb the echo, and there's a ton of different ones that you'll be getting as you play the game and fight different enemies. Now, what you need to understand with echoes in particular though, is that as with other games, the higher rarity they are, the better they will be, the more stats, substats, and overall value they will have. And so naturally, you want to try to be getting the highest rarity echoes as often as possible, but how do you do that? Well, in Wuthering Waves, you have a data bank, which you should level as fast as possible. This is something that I highly recommend prioritizing because the higher level your data dock is, the higher rarity echoes you can get. There are 4 different rarities of echoes in Wuthering Waves: green, blue, purple, and gold, also known as rank 2, 3, 4, and 5, with gold echoes being the best and what you're looking for. Now, in order to get these and actually be able to start farming them, you want your data bank to be level 15. This is where you can start getting these gold echoes, and in order to level up your data bank, you want to be collecting echoes. Every different unique echo you get gives you data bank XP, and additionally, you'll get XP for each of these echoes you get of a different rarity. This means that you will get XP from getting a green echo and then getting the same one in blue, purple, and gold, all helping you level your data dock, which leads me to a pretty big tip. Farm echoes as you progress, claim all of them, clear as many enemies as you can, especially new enemies, to unlock all of the new echoes, and also as you level your data bank, you will be wanting to go back and fight enemies that you've already cleared, echoes you've already unlocked, just to get the higher rarities, even if you're not planning on using them, to give you data bank XP. While I'm not going to go in depth on how every part of the ecosystem works, it's important to understand that echoes are important, and so you should be leveling your data bank, claiming the good rewards you get from it as well, and trying to get level 15 as fast as possible, just leveling it up as much as you can by either collecting new echoes or a new rarity of an echo you've already found. With that in mind, how should you be spending your resources? Well, this leads us to a big mistake that I think you should avoid, and the start of some more advanced tips that I've learned through playing many gacha games for many years, notably sinking 3+ years of my life in Genshin Impact. And this leads me to the first big mistake I think you should be avoiding, which is regarding wasting your resources, leveling up the wrong things, and just resource management in general. First of all, regarding echoes, you shouldn't be leveling the first echoes you're getting. Obviously, you're gonna get a lot of bad echoes, green echoes, blue echoes, things that you're not going to be using for a long time. And so part of rushing to a high data bank level is starting to get these good echoes that you might be using for a long time. Gold echoes and even purple echoes will be a lot better and more efficient to use before you start investing all of your resources into maxing out your echoes. Now, this doesn't mean you can't level anything. It just means that the faster you unlock better echoes, the faster you can farm good ones and won't need to waste any resources in the bad ones. That'll only help you for the early game. Additionally, as far as account progression goes, you don't need to optimize every character that well just to get through what you need to get through as fast as possible to start getting, for example, gold echoes, progress through the quest, unlock all of these important things you're rushing to unlock before you actually need to focus on leveling all your echoes and min-maxing everything. It's much more efficient to try to unlock these higher rarity echoes than to just level all of the low rarity ones that you have just to help you clear, for example, one floor of a permanent content game mode that's going to be there forever. To go into a bit more detail about this though and what you should be investing into, the first thing that I think can make your progression a lot harder is if you spread yourself too thin and start leveling every character that you have, or even just too many of them. The reality is that in the early and mid game, resources will be scarce. And so because of this, you're gonna have to decide on who to invest into and how to manage your resources. My personal advice is to focus on one DPS character, one or two, but typically one team that you're gonna be using before moving on to others. Now, eventually in Wuthering Waves, you're gonna need 3 teams. And so even if you end up leveling a few characters a little bit, it's okay, but it will always be more efficient to have one character to carry you. One character whose level, weapon, talents, and all that are leveled effectively as much as you can to really carry you through the early and mid game without committing too much to too many characters and wasting too many resources. Personally, I do think that because Wuthering Waves is a game where you are incentivized to swap between characters a lot, and we'll get into some combat tips a bit later, there can be some benefits to focusing on 2 characters and sort of cycling through them using your intro and outro skills. But for the most part, I think you should focus on one character primarily and then your first team of 3 characters before moving on and spreading yourself even more thinly. With that in mind though, I have to say something that I've noticed through playing different gacha games, streaming to a bunch of people, and getting the same questions over and over. And this is that, yes, while it's true that you should not waste your resources, obviously, right? You want to be certain of your decisions. You don't want to level a character and then not use them. I also think that being afraid to spend any resource, hoarding forever, not being able to progress, and just not knowing what to do is almost worse a lot of the times. Because of this, just choose a character you like, and most characters in this game can be a DPS unless you're purely a healer like Verena or Baiji, who can still be good characters but are obviously more supports. Like Verena's insane but not at dealing damage, more so healing and buffing. Taking your character, leveling them up, investing into them a lot, even if you're not sure how quote-unquote meta they are. I don't think you should be focusing on tier lists day one, looking at who the absolute strongest unit's gonna be, as even a character like the Rover, the main character, can carry you through the early game relatively efficiently, and a lot of the free characters are genuinely pretty good. You will also be getting a 5-star from the beginner banner, and so getting a character to invest into shouldn't be the hardest thing, and so don't hoard your resources, but also don't waste them. It can be hard to know what to do as it's a new game and there are so many different characters you can invest into, but as I said, choose someone to carry you a main DPS, get them a good weapon, preferably if you're not sure what to use, something with attack is always good. You can use a 3-star weapon just fine. You can also refine it or upgrade it by chucking multiple weapons of the same type into it, and that can be fine. If you have a 4-star weapon or a 5-star weapon, they can just give you more stats and can be better, and let this character carry you. Be sure to ascend them and level them as high as you can, level their weapon as well as giving them echoes of the correct main stat, and ideally set as well. Early game, don't worry about substats at all, and even until you start unlocking 4 and 5-star echoes, I would recommend just using kind of whatever you have. Don't waste too many resources leveling them, just try to get good main stats, and ideally a relevant set for them, for example giving them damage or attack, and then using them to progress until you unlock the harder game modes, get deeper into the game, and then want to start leveling your party, other characters, and eventually more than one team. If you need to level lower rank echoes, it's technically still okay because you can either feed them for XP later or use them on other characters that aren't built for you yet, but ideally wait till gold or at least purple echoes before you start leveling them to clear content, with gold obviously being the best and purple being fine as well, with main stats mattering the most and then substats being a nice bonus as well. Now I do want to point out that if you're not grinding the game that heavy, you're not rushing to get the better, higher quality echoes, it can be okay to level some echoes a little bit. The first few levels don't cost that much, especially for like your main echo that can give you a lot of stats. It can be okay to level it a bit even if it's of a lesser rarity, but obviously the higher rarity echoes will be used on your account for longer if you can grind your databank to the higher levels. Also, you get purple tuners differently to the gold ones, so if you're leveling a purple echo, you can use those to unlock the substats as a separate resource than the gold ones, and then you can eventually just use them on other characters or feed them for more echo XP in a different piece. It's also worth mentioning that your echoes set effect matters too, but obviously won't give you as much damage bonus as a correct correct main stat, so keep that in mind when choosing your echoes. Regarding your gear and character progression, it is always recommended to max out your character level, weapon level, and talents before moving on to echoes, generally speaking. You want to make sure not to waste your resources, uncap your stamina equivalent, resin equivalent, called wave plate in this game, spend it on the resources you need, making sure it's uncapped, focusing on ascending your characters by clearing bosses, getting the XP materials, and getting any material you need to level your weapons, abilities, and characters. Generally, for the early game, farming bosses is incredibly efficient as you need the materials to ascend your characters in order to level them up, on top of also getting some additional materials that will help you level. Something else you should understand is that regarding your stamina or wave plate, you will get crystal solvents, which are the equivalent of fragile resin. These, when you pop them, you get 60 wave plate whenever, and you can use these to help you get more materials and progress faster. With that in mind, I would recommend waiting until a higher Soul 3 phase, which levels up with every 10 union levels. So as you progress your account, your Soul 3 phase, the world level equivalent, will increase, and it's typically recommended to wait until level 40 or higher to pop these. With that in mind, if you really want to use them to just level up a character or progress, you can. It's just more efficient to save them up until later for better rewards. Regarding the combat in this game, it's honestly very unique in the sense that you want to be quick swapping between characters, using their intro and outro skill once you build up enough concerto energy, and you see the numbers on the right side of your screen, your other characters sort of flashing. That means you can swap into them, use your outro skill on your active character, and then swap into whichever character you chose and doing their intro skill. This is a core part of the combat system alongside your resonance skill and resonance liberation, also known as skill and ultimate, and also basic attacking in between to help build up your other abilities. While if you have one main DPS character, you can kind of just swap through your two others using their abilities and then focusing on one, especially if you have at least two characters built. You can swap between them using their intro and outro skills, resonance liberations, and also their echoes ability. Don't forget that, in order to get more damage and more value in your rotations. Although there are some exceptions, like characters that want to stay on field and attack inside of their ultimate. Again, if you want more information about more detailed combat stuff, more guides, and character specific things, leave a comment, as I may be interested in making more detailed videos about this subject. Another huge mistake I want my viewers to avoid is wasting your Astrites, a very premium currency and what allows you to get the character of your dreams. I would not recommend wasting these to refresh your stamina, and I also wouldn't recommend typically purchasing either novice or standard permanent banner pulls and saving these up for the limited characters, as you can purchase your premium pulls with these Astrites. They both cost the same amount of Astrites, but on one banner you can get characters that are always available, and on the other it will be a character that is rotating only here probably every few months, and if you lose your 50-50, then you will get one of the standard characters anyways. While pulling on the beginner banner and also the permanent banner for the sort of free 5-star we're getting in 80 pulls is good, it's mostly good with the free pulls we're getting, right? Through things like events, as you play, level up, unlock things like this one, the Awakening Journey, that gives you just a bunch of pulls that you get through many sources. These pulls that are only meant to be used on the permanent banner are obviously a more efficient way to pull on the permanent banner without needing to spend your Astrites. Now, granted, if you're just a bit away from a 5-star and you want it and it will help you enjoy the game, then be my guest, you can spend your currency however you want to, but for the most part, it is typically recommended to save up your Astrites and spend them on a character or even weapon that you want that is limited. Lastly, a big trap I want people to avoid that I have learned in my years playing gacha games is try your best to avoid FOMO, fear of missing out, for a lot of different things. Progress at your own pace, enjoy the game. If you don't like doing quests and you don't want to, it's okay. You can explore, fight bosses, focus on whatever you enjoy doing if that brings you the most enjoyment, because obviously it's a game. With that in mind, even with the gacha system, which can get you some cool characters, weapons, and all that stuff, understand that you don't need them to clear content. There's a lot of good 4-stars, a lot of good weapons, and even a 5-star you'll be getting through the beginner banner that can help you out, and you shouldn't feel forced to pull for any specific character or even use your Astrites to refresh your wave plate, get more stamina. Save up your Astrites, pull for characters you like, weapons you like, whatever, and don't feel baited, as a lot of the times in a lot of gacha games you can pull for a character and then a week or a month later regret it and wish you hadn't done it. While personally I really like the 1.0 characters Jian and Yinling, don't feel forced to spend your Astrites or real money unless it's for something that you think is worth it and that you won't regret. These were my tips for you to have a quick start in Wuthering Waves, avoid some mistakes, and progress efficiently. With that in mind, be sure to have fun. Remember, it's just a game. I know I will be having tons of fun with Wuthering Waves. Be sure to check me out live, as I will be streaming it on Twitch, link in the description if you're interested. Effectively, as soon as you're watching this video, I should be live. With that in mind, thanks so much for watching, and thanks again to Wuthering Waves for sponsoring this video, which is honestly surreal. And with all that said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.